I saw a Wendigo. And I wish I hadn't. I need to write this down before I convince myself it didn't happen. This happened in December last year. I was visiting my uncle in northern Minnesota, near the Canadian border. He's the kind of guy who prefers solitude, lives in a cabin deep in the woods. No close neighbors, just the trees and whatever lives in them. I never minded visiting. I like the quiet. But after that night, I don't think I'll ever go back. It was the coldest night of the year, at least minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. My uncle had gone into town for supplies, so I was alone. The cabin was warm, the fire crackling, and I was scrolling on my phone when I heard it. Something moving outside, not footsteps, more like a dragging sound. Slow, deliberate. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then came the knock. Not at the door, at the window. 3 slow, deliberate taps. I froze. My uncle's nearest neighbor was miles away, and no sane person would be out in that cold. The knocking came again, reached for my flashlight, and shined it through the window. I wish I hadn't. There was something standing just beyond the tree line. It was tall, at least 7 or 8 feet, but emaciated, with long, bony limbs. Its skin looked frostbitten, almost blackened, and its eyes were glowing, not reflecting light, glowing on their own, like embers buried in aging fire. I should have looked away. I should have closed the curtains, but I was frozen, staring, and unable to breathe. And then, it smiled. Its teeth were too many, too sharp, stretching across its face. It opened its mouth wider than any human should, and then it spoke. Let me in. The voice didn't match the body. It sounded wrong, like a recording, played at the wrong speed, too deep, too garbled. I ran. I grabbed my uncle's rifle, locked the door, and backed into the farthest corner of the room. The knocking stopped, but I could hear it scraping against the walls outside. Slow, patient, like it had all the time in the world. Sat there for what felt like hours, rifle shaking in my hands, until my uncle finally came back. The second his headlights swept across the trees, the noises stopped. He found me pale, sweating, and gripping the gun like my life depended on it. I told him everything. He didn't say a word, just nodded and checked around the cabin. When he came back, he looked unsettled. There are no tracks in the snow, he said. Nothing. That was impossible. I heard it. I saw it. But there was nothing outside. No footprints, no marks on the walls, just the untouched snow and the silent, watching trees. I left the next morning and haven't been back since. My uncle still lives there, but he told me something before I left. If you ever hear it again, he said, don't look, and whatever you do, never let it in. I haven't told anyone else until now, but I know what I saw, and I'll know. It's still out there.